I have to say, as someone who is an ex-Floridian, I find this story immensely funny. You see, Floridians are some of the most Republicans you will ever encounter, okay? They proudly and confidently voted for Ron Desantis as governor of Florida, believing that he was going to be a vanguard of protecting freedom for the people of Florida. Republicans love to talk about how much they love freedom, because everyone loves freedom. Being the group that is, like, branded as being the pro-freedom guys, that's easy, good advertising. No one dislikes freedom, but if you are the one that's always saying how much you love it, then the implication is the other side doesn't love freedom. And you don't want to be on the side that doesn't love freedom, right? Hilariously, though, those that have to scream constantly about how pro-freedom they are, they usually have to do it because their actions don't really communicate that all that well. And the Republicans are a great example of that. And a great example of an action that doesn't do a good job of communicating how pro-freedom the Republicans are is the recent porn ban that passed in Florida due to the actions of, like, the direct passing of the bill by Ron DeSantis, who is, of course, a MAGA loyalist, mind you. You see, this idea was really just sort of a hypothetical for a while, but as of the last 4 days, or I should say the last 3 days, since January 1st, it has been effective law. And many porn sites are still available in Florida, but to use them, you have to input your ID. That's right, you have to prove you are an adult who can quote-unquote legally access that material by entering your ID and getting it confirmed. Of course, these are shady-ass porn sites. Pornhub is the site that is pulled out of Florida entirely. You have to use a VPN to access it now, if you're a Floridian. They refuse to offer service there. So every other porn site that isn't Pornhub is what you'll have to go to. Or I guess maybe some other sites have also cut off service. But, like, does anyone trust any porn site that isn't Pornhub? They're all so shady. Like, porn sites that aren't Pornhub are notorious for being shady. That's like the whole stereotype. Do you really want to give your ID to those websites? I wouldn't, okay? I certainly wouldn't. And because of that, the freedom-loving citizens of Florida are now seeing searches for VPNs skyrocket in the last 3 days. All because they got exactly what they voted for. Searches for VPN, or virtual private proxy, surged in Florida on January 1st after a number of leading pornographic websites blocked access to the Sunshine State in response to a new law requiring age verification. You know what really sucks about this? There's probably a lot of sex workers that live in Florida who, like, make content on porn sites, and I guess they could just use their ID verification. They already probably have to make content, but like Pornhub, for instance, being blocked in the state, I think creating content on these sites requires a much stronger verification of your identity than watching it, even with this law. So if you're like a Floridian sex worker who makes Pornhub videos, this is a really rough situation. You might just have to move states and establish residency in a state where Pornhub is not banned. Newsweek contacted Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for comment via email on Thursday outside of regular office hours. Florida is just the latest in a series of states to implement a law requiring proof that users are 18 years old to access pornographic websites. Similar laws also took effect on Wednesday in Tennessee and South Carolina, meaning they now apply to 17 mostly southern states overall, according to a 404 media. 17 states, all of them Republican-controlled, mind you. Not a single blue state has passed one of these laws. Under the terms of the legislation, House Bill 3, websites hosting pornographic content can be fined up to $50,000 for each violation, along with attorney's fees and the potential for civil liability if they fail to enforce the age verification requirement. Supporters argue the wave of legislation is needed to safeguard children, whilst critics have raised concerns about data security and the First Amendment. In response, a number of leading pornographic sites, including industry giant Pornhub, have blocked access to their content from the impacted states. Google Trends data, published on January 2nd, showed a sharp rise in VPN searches beginning on December 31st, 2024, and continuing into the new year. VPNs allow computer users to disguise their locations and thus get around location-specific website blocks. While it doesn't give individual search figures, Google gave the value of 100 to VPN inquiries on January 2nd compared to the level of 91 on January 1st, 55 on December 31st, and 37 on December 30th. Searches for individual VPN providers, as well as internet pornography and computer virus, were also categorized as breakout for Florida over the period by Google. Yeah, Google doesn't give exact numbers for search data trends anymore, but it gives you like relative numbers. And so there has been a 100% plus increase in traffic in Florida searching for VPNs. It has at least doubled. Those attempting to access Pornhub from Florida are instead presented with a video by adult entertainment star Cherry DeVille, who says, "As you may know, your elected officials in Florida are requiring us to verify your age before allowing you to access this website. While safety and compliance are at the forefront of our mission, giving your ID card every time you want to visit an adult platform is not the most effective solution for protecting our users, and in fact will put children and your privacy at risk." In a statement provided to Newsweek, ALO, Pornhub's parent company, said, "ALO has publicly supported age verification of users for years, but we believe that any law to this effect must preserve user safety and privacy, and must effectively protect children from accessing content intended for adults." You know what the big kicker is as well? Kids are the ones who all know what a VPN is. There is not a single internet-using kid that doesn't know what a VPN is, but I guarantee you, the adults who use computers that are more likely to be the ones, the ones that are meant to not be harmed by this law, they're the ones who might not know what a VPN is and thus can no longer access Pornhub. And the sites they can access, they now have to risk their data being leaked because they're having to hand over their ID to sites that are notoriously fishy and weird and just shady, Pornhub is famous because they're like the least shady porn site. Unfortunately, the way many jurisdictions worldwide, including Florida, have chosen to implement age verification is ineffective, haphazard, and dangerous, ALO continued. Any regulations that require hundreds of thousands of adult sites to collect significant amounts of highly sensitive personal information is putting user safety in jeopardy. Moreover, as experience has demonstrated, unless properly enforced, users will simply access non-compliant sites to find other methods of evading these laws, the company added. In an article for the Palm Beach Post, writer Frank Sarabino suggested an alternative, commenting, "Instead of demanding documents from secrecy-prone viewers, people who have their reputations to protect as kindergarten teachers, members of the clergy, and elected officials, you can simply ask visitors to the online site a bunch of screening questions that would accurately reveal their age in a less invasive way." Georgia is due to become the 18th state to require age verification to access pornographic websites in July, with child safety campaigners hoping others follow suit. However, pornography providers are continuing to argue these moves endanger viewers' personal information and could lead some viewers to access more extreme content. That's the thing about it too, right? There are tons of websites, I'm sure, that are run from other countries that are impossible to attack, right? The really awful, unaccountable sites that are going to be hosting the worst, most awful content that could be found on the internet, those are the sites that these laws are going to have really no impact on. And so if people are seeking out pornographic content, it's going to be the really fucked up weird sites that they're going to end up going to. And they're going to see shit that's even worse than they would have seen on Pornhub. I feel like not only is this hurting adults who should be legally allowed to easily access porn on their computer with the internet they pay for, using the power that they pay for, like the idea that they should have their wanking affected in a negative way, all the while kids are going to be less affected by this law because they know how to use VPNs, and the ones who don't know how to use VPNs are going to end up finding potentially worse material now because no law can prevent, it can only react. There is no protecting children with laws like this. By definition, laws do not prevent things. They are reactionary by nature. You pursue those that have done something wrong. You can't prevent them from doing it outside of whatever prevention is offered by scaring people away from committing a crime, by showing if there are consequences. How much criminals care about the possibility of there being consequences? Hard to say. They still commit crime anyway, which is why I don't think a law like this was ever a reasonable path to take. And this is just what happens, guys. I feel like this is a really good example, small scale, of what constantly keeps happening. You've got the middle-of-the-road people, you got the Republicans, and you got the progressives. The progressives try to tell the middle-of-the-road people, please vote for our guy. The guy on the other side of this issue, if you let him win or vote for him, will take your freedoms away. He is a liar, he is a bad person, and he does not have your best interests in heart. They say, whatever, you crazy lefties. They vote that guy in power, and then they do things like this. It happened with Trump. We're going to see it happen on the national scale, and it happens even on the smaller state level. If you continue to elect these Republicans, you're going to continue to have these problems. But there's so much cognitive dissonance. I remember when we were covering the impact of the hurricanes that happened in Florida back in October, all these Republican Trump supporters who had their houses flooded and decimated by 2 back-to-back record-breaking hurricanes, they all just chalked it up to that crazy tropical weather, I guess. They all began rebuilding on the exact same spot, saying they're going to weather through this as if a storm like this won't happen again for another 50 to 100 years. It's going to happen again this next coming October, maybe 3 of them back-to-back this time. They have cognitively distanced themselves into deciding they are going to stubbornly stay somewhere that their political activity, their voting, has doomed, because they are so unwilling to accept the reality that their votes for Republicans over the last decades have doomed the coastal area in which they lived. Because if they move and they accept these coastal regions are no longer inhabitable, they have to admit those Republican votes for all those decades were wrong. They were fooled. They hurt themselves. No more FEMA now? Yeah, let's see how well these guys handle the next hurricane season without FEMA. It's going to be interesting. The worst hit areas are always the rural, conservative, hard Trump-supporting coastal Republican areas in Florida. So they're going to get decimated, and Trump is going to have defunded everything that could be there to help them. They're going to be homeless and suffering, and Trump is going to be the only person they have to blame. At least I hope. For all we know, they're going to try to blame a time-traveling Joe Biden. Speaking of climate change, the new fog conspiracy has been fun. I haven't even heard about that, but I can guess what it entails. I can kind of guess what it entails. Biden fog machines. Of course, of course. Anyway, guys. Didn't really have all that much to talk about in regards to this. I just wanted to sort of point out how people can be fooled into so blatantly voting for things that are against their best interests, and how immediately they can fuck around and find out. This is a really good example of that. If you enjoyed this video, and you found this segment entertaining, educational, or enjoyable, then please consider leaving a like and a comment. Likes and thumbs up and comments are the best way to support my content and boost it in the algorithm, and it's totally free, so I really do appreciate it, whether you're watching live or when this goes up as a video, mind you. And of course, follow my social medias, link down below in the description if you haven't already, so that YouTube, so you can see me on more platforms. Subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And of course, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some merch through the Xander Hall merch link down below in the description. It's actually through Streamlabs, Xander Hall merch. It's awesome. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching no matter what, and as always, have a good one.